Hello YouTubers, welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm your host, the Board Game Captain, and today for this new geek culture video I'm going to be discussing some fairly recent references on television shows to games and gaming. Now, I'm going to get right to it. These are some of my favorite references in the last few years on mainstream popular shows. So the first reference I want to talk about is on the great British sitcom, The IT Crowd. So now if you haven't checked out The IT Crowd, it's available for streaming on Netflix. It's a really, really cool sitcom. It involves a group of IT professionals working in a big office building. Lots of great geek culture references, humor for people who are into that sort of thing and humor for people that aren't. It's just very, very funny. It went on for about 3 seasons, and in one particular episode, they have a big part of the plot line is a game of a role-playing game, a fictional role-playing game, and not an actual one, but a role-playing game that goes on. And there's lots of jokes that, while they're funny for everybody, are also specifically funnier for people who might know a little bit about how role-playing groups work and how role-playing games go. Jokes about the different kind of people you would have in your role-playing group and certain cliches that really hold true for when you're role-playing. So great show, definitely check it out. Not just for that one episode, but also because it's an incredibly funny show and stars 3 of the funniest people in the universe. Moving on, the next show that I want to draw attention to is the television show Orphan Black. Now, Orphan Black is a light sci-fi show out of Canada. I say it's light sci-fi because it mainly has to do with cloning and genetic engineering, which are kind of scientific facts now. They're things that we can do. But that being said, it's a great show, a lot of fun. The actors are fantastic. And in one particular episode, they show some of the characters actually playing a game of Rune Wars. And then after that, one of the characters, who is an avid board gamer himself, uses the ruse of teaching another character who's sort of imprisoned within this government complex. He uses the ruse of teaching them how to play the game Agricola. And saying that he's visiting her and he's showing her how to play the game, and he's allowed to visit her to do so while they're using the game as just a cover to trade information, which is, again, really cool. Agricola becomes a major plot point, and actually showing Rune Wars being played the way Rune Wars is played is also a really, really cool thing. The next reference and the next show I want to draw attention to is the show The Big Bang Theory. It's no big surprise, all the geek culture references they have on The Big Bang Theory, that they have some gaming ones. I'm talking specifically about one particular episode in which they have 3 of the major characters of the Circle of Friends playing the game Settlers of Catan. Or it's in a more recent version, it's just called Catan, because everybody was just calling it Catan anyways. So now the problem I have with this particular reference is, while I like the show and while I really do like that they are referencing gaming on the show, the jokes, the whole train of jokes that they chose to go off of for this particular reference are a very old and tired joke, which of course, if you're into gaming, you've heard the joke before, where people are playing Catan and one person has wood to trade and they need sheep because there's a lot of resource collecting and trading in the game, and the person says, "Hey, I've got wood for sheep," and everybody laughs. Well, except that at this point they don't really laugh as much anymore. They kind of groan now because the joke has been going on for 20 years, and it's a 20-year-old joke, and every joke in this train of jokes was a variation of that. So it was a little eye-rolling worthy. It was a very old joke that they had rehashed. Still cool that they had a reference to gaming on the show, though, so I still appreciate it for that purpose. And you know what? If you're not as into gaming as I am, you might have found this joke to be new for you, so that's cool too. The last reference is the reason I decided to do this video as my next geek culture video. It's the fantastic TV show, well, actually Netflix show. It's not actually one that's on TV, so you can debate at another time whether or not a show that's specifically made for a streaming service is a TV show, but for now I'll just call it a Netflix show. the fantastic Netflix show Stranger Things. Now, if you have not seen Stranger Things and you have Netflix, you need to just go watch Stranger Things, because oh my god, this show is absolutely amazing. And if you don't have Netflix, go make friends with someone with Netflix and watch Stranger Things, because oh my god, this show is amazing. Now, that being said, the reference that I'm talking about is that throughout the show, it kind of bookends the show. You have a sequence in the beginning and a sequence all the way at the end of the season, where some of the kids who are major characters in the show are playing a game of Dungeons and Dragons. The beginning, it's used as foreshadowing. Some of the things that happen in the game are foreshadowing for events that happen later in the show. And at the end of the season, it's used as a sum up and also to talk about ideas that haven't been resolved yet, so that maybe things that might come back for the second season. So when you watch it, now I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but when you watch it, pay close attention to the things they talk about during the game, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really awesome. There's also another scene where they show the board game in one of the main characters' basements, the board game Dungeon. Now, Dungeon was a TSR. It was put out by TSR. It was a light board game, a light RPG board game. So it was like an adventure board game. It played sort of like a role-playing game, where you had one person as a game master and the other people would be players going around and going on the adventure. But it was simpler rules and easier to get into, and it was definitely a board game, not a role-playing game. Now, I didn't have Dungeon. I never owned Dungeon, but I did have Hero Quest, which is a similar time period, similar style of game. And later on, I also had Dragon Strike, which was kind of the spiritual successor to Dungeon. So I did have other games like that, and those were really cool, and those were games that very much were sort of the bridging point between board gaming and role-playing. And that is awesome, and I love that they referenced, along with all the other great 80s references of the show, because the show takes place in 1983, that they referenced some of the gaming culture of the time, because there was a bit of a boom in the gaming culture of the time because of games like Dungeons and Dragons. So that's it. Those are some of my favorite board game references. So now, the reason I think that we're seeing such a large amount of gaming references in modern TV shows, where you didn't really see any for a long time, is because there's a big boom in the gaming industry going on. Gaming is becoming far more mainstream. You are seeing games that once upon a time you only saw at hobby shops and comic book shops are now being sold at Target and Walmart, which is weird but awesome. I mean, it's great that it's out there and everybody can get into it and everybody can know about it thanks to these references on television shows. I think it's definitely a good thing for the community. I think more people that want to play the games that you like are always a good thing. I think families sitting down once a week and having a gaming night and unplugging and turning off the television and the computer and things like that, but only turn off the computer after you've watched my most recent installment of the Board Game Captain. But all those things are good. It's really good to unplug and sit around a table and play with your family, play with your friends. Gaming has a way of developing social skills, teaching fair play, teaching how to be a gracious winner and a good loser as well, that you don't get from video games. So there, it's a really, really, in my opinion, important part of social development for people to game with their family. And I mean, when I was a kid, of course the games were different. There was a lot of older games that we wouldn't even play now, like Monopoly, etc., which I'll go into in another video as to all my gripes with Monopoly. But it definitely was important to do that. So that's my thoughts on these great references to games and gaming in modern pop culture television programs. Did I miss any great references to games and gaming in other modern TV shows? Please comment below. Tell me what games I missed. Tell me what references I missed. Tell me what games you discovered because you saw them on a TV show and said, wow, that looks cool, I want to check that out. Tell me anything you like. Just comment down below. And as always, if you like this video and you'd like to see more like it, please, please, please like and subscribe here on YouTube. So until next time, game on.